r/AskReddit. For those who have witnessed a wedding objection during the speak now or forever hold your peace portion, what happened? I was working at a wedding when I was younger. I was running the bar at the reception, which was very close to the hall the weddings were at. We were told that the reception would begin around 4 p.m. It was already about 3ish, and I was packing fridges, the usual barman things, while one of the male guests was still sitting there drinking. I asked if he was not joining the reception, to which he replied something along the lines of "when I have the courage." He downs his drink and leaves. 10 minutes later he's back, looking extremely disappointed. Guy orders a drink, and less than 30 seconds later another guy who's dressed extremely well, turned out to be the groom, walks in, punches him in the back of the head, and leaves. This dude just picked his drink up and sipped it further. I eventually found out that this dude had downed his drink, walked into the reception stand, admitted to sleeping with the wife on her hen night and again the night before the wedding. He was never invited to the wedding. He just felt the groom needed to know. So he found out where the wedding was, sweeted up and dropped the info mid-ceremony. When I was 13 we went to my second cousin's wedding. Everything is going great. They even got past the speak now or forever hold your peace part. They wrote their own vows, but before my second cousin's fiance/wife could even begin her vows his son got up and announced to the entire room that she was cheating on his dad with her drug dealer and he couldn't let his dad marry her. My second cousin yelled at his son to either sit down or leave. The son left. My second cousin married her anyways, and 5 years and 1 baby later he finds out it was true and they separated, but Witter tweaked out to be able to afford a divorce. Finally he got married a 3rd time, but before he could get married his 3rd now ex-wife had to pay for their divorce. This wedding had no objections. They moved to Missouri and this time instead of separating or asking for a divorce he decided he didn't want to be married anymore and just moved back to Cali to get back together with his 2nd ex-wife. Yep, family dinners are a little awkward. Groom's dad interrupted the wedding to ask the bride's father whether or not she was truly a virgin. Then he went on about how he didn't know anything of the wedding and blah blah blah. Truly weird and embarrassing. I was there with an ex-boyfriend. Edit, he is my ex-boyfriend. When the groom's father interrupted the wedding the bride's father, officiating the wedding, did in fact say it was confirmed. I have no clue how or what. They seemed to be super conservative and wore sleeve dresses, long hair, etc. and were Afro-American. They eventually showed the father-in-law out and continued with the ceremony which was super awkward afterwards. It was literally as if I was on Pranked. Said ex seemed to find the ordeal entertaining because she was humiliated. This was his family, bride, and that sort of sealed the deal. Something was wrong with the guy. We broke up a week later. I once went to a wedding where both families were Irish. GF knew them but I didn't. At the ceremony, the groom's ex-wife started shouting shit and was gently directed outside. I couldn't hear what was said. The reception was amazing. Nice venue and all, but a bunch of guests had brought their own instruments and just started jamming what I can only describe as a genuine Irish jig. This went on for hours and remains a lasting memory of oral beauty. But I digress. There was a lot of booze. There was no responsible serving of alcohol, and I'm certain it was by design. At some point I used the men's room and was curious if I'd just seen the groom in a stall, door open, with someone who was not the bride. I didn't know these people, and it might have just been someone else, so said nothing. Sometime later, and the GF states seriously we should get going now. Yeah sure. We grab our shit and head downstairs. I see the suspicious fellow again in the stairwell going to absolute town on this same lady. GF grabs my arm tightly and keeps walking past, mumbles a thank you for the invite. I just smile and follow cause it's all weird. Yep, that was the groom, octopusing his ex-wife at his own wedding to another woman. The bride genuinely seemed a gem. The look that woman gave us as we passed was this smugly dominant I always get what I want. Fuck yeah, drunk as fuck glare. Wow. They had some reasonable bubbly in a tub for people to take home, and who would know or care if we hawked a few extras. I got it all explained to me after we were in a cab and well on our way home. I never got a follow up to that story, but 10/10ths on the music. Would tag along to an Irish wedding again. I saw it nearly happen at my uncle's wedding. A friend of his got too drunk, and when said speak now, he smiled, started to stand up. My mother grabbed him by his hair and sat him back down by force. Edit, clarification and context. It was my mother, the groom's sister. The drunk was a close friend of both the bride and groom, so he was seated up front. He's a nice dude, but sometimes a bit of a dumbass. It was a small non-traditional wedding. They were wed in the botanical gardens by a justice of the peace. The reception was held in the same place. When you entered the area for the wedding/reception, there was an open bar, so some people helped themselves before the ceremony started, and one overindulged a bit. Not speak now part, but well, you'll see. Friend of mine was getting married in the park under the trees because both of them were nature people, and groom had a dog that went everywhere with him that wasn't allowed in any church because dog, despite being well trained and quiet. There were some rows of chairs with lots of people filling them, including groom's mother who was sitting with his dog. Bride and groom were at the front with the officiant. Officiant begins. Officiant comes to the part where he says, "Do you take?" Groom's dog, Shadow, began to howl aloud, long mournful howl. Everyone laughed. Officiant started the question again. Loud, long mournful howl again. Everyone laughed. Groom told Shadow to come to the front. Shadow ran up, stood directly in between the bride and groom, and the officiant started again. Not a peep from Shadow. Her vows. His vows. Officiant looked at Shadow and asked, "Shadow, do you take bride and groom to be your lawfully wedded parents?" Shadow barked one single bark. Officiant concluded the ceremony. Everyone cheered and clapped, and Shadow barked 3 times, the only times that he made any sounds. Not kidding. Beautiful dog too. My boyfriend was friends with a guy who was getting a quickie marriage and needed witnesses. We agreed and went inside the little reception room where the preacher, bride, and the groom were lined up, waiting on us. The preacher started his thing and I noticed a woman come in and lean against the back wall. She looked pissed, standing with her arms crossed. "Preacher, is there anyone here today who objects to the union of asterisk 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 and asterisk asterisk asterisk? Please, speak now." The couple looked back at us, and we both smiled. Suddenly, the bride's attention turned to the woman in the back of the room. "Bride, what the F asterisk 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 is she doing here?" The woman quickly raises her hand, looking at the old preacher. "Woman, I object. I don't agree with this marriage." The bride glares at her. "Bride, shut up, bitch. Wait your fucking turn. It's my scheduled day. You're just mad you didn't think of it first." The woman had to be dragged out of the room, kicking and screaming and spitting at the bride. After the reception, my BF's friend explained that he was originally in a relationship with the bride. After 10 years together, he started sleeping with her sister, the woman. They were close sisters until both ladies got pregnant by him simultaneously. They fought each other like cats and dogs for the next several years until the 2 cousins became school-aged and best friends. Neither one of the sisters would give up the man, and he wasn't sure which one he loved more, so he kept seeing both women. Last I heard they were all still together, but the 2 sisters had teamed up to take down his pregnant mistress. No objections were made, unfortunately, but back when I worked in a hotel a few years ago, I got to witness a very interesting wedding. In preparation, we had to ensure we'd ordered enough blue WKD, and as this was the groom's drink of choice, first red flag. The whole wedding took place in the hotel. The function room also hosted the ceremony, so we started pretty early that day. Before the ceremony, the bride had taken 3 bottles of Prosecco up to her room whilst she was getting ready, and was clearly tipsy before the wedding started, but seemed to act sober enough that whoever was conducting the ceremony was none the wiser. Ceremony seemed normal, but I was prepping the bar, so wouldn't have known either way. As it ends, all the guests flood out for drinks whilst we changed the function room and set out the tables for the sit-down meal. The guests were off as a badger's ass, to put it politely. I already knew one of them as he'd been to the hotel before, acting like a total wanker when I told him the bar was closed and I wouldn't be serving him. However, he was being especially polite to me this time, as it was clear his date for the wedding was definitely not the same girl he was in with just a few weeks ago, who I suspect was a paid acquaintance. Before the meal even began, we were starting to worry if we'd have enough alcohol. These people drank like fish, but we managed to get them all seated and fed, and everyone is being friendly and well behaved. As the night goes on, the bride is slowly becoming so drunk she can barely stand and has changed from her wedding dress into a very scant pink negligee with a tutu skirt. She's also given up on using the bathroom, so she loudly announces she will be relying solely upon nature weeds from this point onwards. Before midnight we are nearly totally out of spirits. The guests are ordering shots every round. I tried to deny service, but my manager was having none of it, and as the hotel was struggling they wanted to make as much money as possible and have shotted us out of almost everything. Blue WKDS are long gone, but the groom has a lovely blue smile at this point. After the bride finally gives up trying to shot disgusting liquors that have likely been there since the hotel was built, they head to the dance floor. The party starts winding down and it's time for the last dance, but the bride decides she'd prefer to have this with a male wedding guest, which really fucks off the groom. She then loudly announces she'll be throwing an after party in their suite and everyone is invited in the hot tub. Funnily enough, the groom isn't thrilled and kicks off. Another member of staff manages to calm everyone down and convinces the DJ to play the last dance song once more before he leaves, and the groom agrees. Everyone starts packing up and the bride comes back from her room in her third outfit of the night, a nice grey stained tracksuit. She's adamant she wants another cigarette before bed. God knows how many packs she went through that day, especially sad considering the money for the wedding came from her parents' inheritance, who both died of cancer. She can't find a lighter and becomes irate, screaming at the groom for one. Groom claims he doesn't have one, but not taking no for an answer, she rifles through his pockets and finds one. Holding it aloft, she screams at him that he's a liar and slaps him clean across the face. The groom, obviously not having enjoyed this, returns the favor and punches her in the face. The best man spots this and leaps across a sofa and tackles the groom to the floor. They are now having a full-on fist fight whilst the bride sobs incoherently. I try and get out of the way as I'm being trampled by Mr. WKD and his scummy friend. My supervisor storms in saying he found coke in the bathroom and the police are on their way. The best man is off like a robber's dog and the groom stands there stunned and then follows his new wife into the function room. We then hear screaming and shouting from that room, and the bride has picked up a chair and launched it at her husband and was now holding a second one trying to attack him with it. At this point it's about 2 AM and I'm royally done with the day. My mum is waiting for me outside, so I grab my bag and head off, giving my supervisor strict instructions to tell me exactly how this ends when I'm back for my next shift. I pass a riot van of police officers on the way out of the door, direct them to the drama and go home. Next shift I'm informed that an ambulance arrived shortly after the police. The groom was taken to the hospital after sustaining a head injury, but he did a runner from the paramedics when he got to the hospital. The bride stayed at the hotel and to console herself spent the night with the male wedding guest she danced with. They left together in the morning and a week later announced on Facebook she was in a new relationship with him. My wife dragged me to a wedding that I did not want to be at years ago, but I'm forever grateful that she did, because I was able to witness one of the greatest spectacles of human drama that has ever taken place. This was like an episode of Jerry Springer mixed with Cops. Bride's lover spoke up at that moment and yelled, "I'll be goddamned if I'm gonna keep my mouth shut and let you steal my woman, you sorry piece of shit." This deranged old redneck proceeds to come at the groom with a pistol, threatening to shoot him if he doesn't give her up. It wasn't a huge wedding, maybe 40 or so people, but every single one of them went screaming and running, and maybe 2 people stayed and called the cops. I grabbed my wife's hand and we retreated outside to watch the rest of the scene unfold from the church window. This happened very recently, but in a different manner than the other comments I'm seeing. For years, groom and best man are super close, room together, and the running joke is that they are more than friends. Later on, groom meets bride, falls in love, and proposes. New running joke is that best man is very disappointed that groom is marrying someone else. At the wedding, officiant asks if anyone has objections. Best man objects. Officiant quickly overrules the objection. It was planned, and bride thought it was a funny way to acknowledge the super close friendship between groom and best man. Did not result in anyone being kicked out or awkwardness. Fun and surprisingly appropriate. About 5 years ago, a coworker of mine invited all of us to his wedding. He was a great guy, but none of us had ever met his wife, seen pictures of her, and he always said nothing but good things of her. Fast forward to the wedding. It was an incredibly nice one. Looks like they paid quite a bit for it. Everything was going smooth, and I was having fun, and assumed so was everyone else. Anyway, now they are both at the altar, or whatever, looking deeply into each other's eyes, and smiling, and when that line comes of speak now or forever hold your peace, I get anxious but nothing ever happens. So right as soon as the anxiousness faded away, the bride's mother stood up and objected. Blurted some shit about how she doesn't want to continue their family with a man like him. He was black, she was white. The bride-to-be cried, ran off. Wedding went fucking silent. Bride's dad took the mom and ran after the bride. The groom stood there incredibly awkward. He may or may not have achieved actually leaving his body. Anyway, the groomsmen took him away. I left because it was too weird. Apparently, the reception went on. They did not get married that day, but ended up together anyway privately, and surprisingly work wasn't weird. He laughed about it, and they are happily married. Edit, just so I don't have to individually reply to everyone's comments and questions. The mill never truly stated it was because he was black, but this guy was incredibly nice, selfless, and just someone who you completely felt comfortable around. Never judged anyone either, and well spoken. The mill also never showed signs of hating him. Who knows why it happened? Maybe the bride and groom found out. I'm not sure. I since moved and haven't spoken to them. But man, does that memory last. This might not count, but it was like 12 hours before the wedding. One of my ex's best friends had a destination wedding in Mexico. Both parties stayed in a huge mansion house overlooking the water. I wasn't in the wedding party, but I was in a hotel close by. The night before the wedding, the bridesmaids and groomsmen stayed up late partying. Everyone passed out, but at midnight or so the bride's mom woke up because she heard the living room speakers, since they had been playing music. She happens to hear noise coming from outside, and she goes out there, and the maid of honor was in the hot tub having sex with the groom. Maid of honor had been raised by bride's mom, basically like a second mom thing, so she was shocked to say the least. They had just bought a house too. The wedding never happened, and I enjoyed my vacation and returned the dress. Edit, super after the fact, but I did some research and last year they made up, got married and had a kid. I feel bad for the girl for not just kicking him aside. I'm not sure if it actually counts, but when my mother married my now stepfather, it was originally supposed to be an outdoor wedding near the edge of a lake. But the day of the weather turned bad, so they switched it last minute to a church about 100 feet away from the original spot. No big deal. I'm pretty sure this place was built exclusively for weddings, because it had a church and reception hall along with like 20 small buildings, each with 2 to 3 rooms, except one that was 1 room. Anyways, both of my mother's parents are dead, so I'm the one that gets to give her away. I'm around 11 to 12 at this time. I also had to give away my stepfather for reasons I'll add after this. I give them away. The ceremony is coming to an end and the minister asks if anyone has any objections. It's quiet for a couple seconds, then boom, huge crack of thunder. It's over a decade later, and we still joke about it. A few extra things that happened. My now stepbrother refused to go because he hated my mom. 3 weeks before the wedding, my stepdad's parents said my mom had been sleeping with his brother. We hadn't seen them in years. 2 weeks before the wedding, my stepdad's parents left a message on the answering machine about how my mother was a terrible daughter for getting married 3 months after her mother died. My grandma had been telling them they should get married for 4 to 5 years already at that point, and this was the final straw, where everyone was uninvited. All in all, though it was a relatively fun wedding, I did all the stuff that the father in the wedding usually does, because I was the only one really for it. My uncle was my stepdad's best man, and my other uncle couldn't make it. As for a more fun wedding though, when my uncle got married I was 20, and he got married at a relative's house that had a very large property, and they set up a beautiful outdoor wedding there. They also set up a great alcohol tent, and the closest people, including me, to the newlyweds spent the entire night drinking and partying. We ate breakfast before we went to bed. It was amazing. I don't remember anything after the ceremony. Musician here. Play frequently at weddings. This was by far my worst one ever. Not at the moment of speak now, but still pretty impressive. Groom books my string quartet for the entire day. Ceremony, drinks, meal. All seems to go well, though you can tell the groom's family is much more well off than the bride's, and she seems to be a bit of an attention whore. But either way, ceremony and drinks went without a hitch. Everyone seemed very happy. Fast forward to the meal. We played through the whole thing, and as we were packing up they started speeches. Usually we'd have left by this point, but our stuff was in a little side room off the banquet room, separated only by salon style swing doors, and we had no way of getting out unless we walked awkwardly between the guests' tables. So we decided to stay put until the speeches were over and listen in. Best man's and FOB speeches went well, and then it was left to the groom. He thanked everyone for coming, and then said that for his speech he needed everyone to open the envelopes that had been placed on the tables. We'd noticed these on the way in, but hadn't thought anything of it. There was an excited bustling as people appointed someone on each table to open the envelopes, followed shortly by a very quick change in the atmosphere. Someone gasped, and another person audibly said, "What the fuck is this?" Amongst the general confusion, the groom gets back on the microphone and says, "Yes, I'm sorry to say that what you see in these pictures has been going on for about 2 months. Needless to say, I will be annulling the marriage. Thank you all for coming." Turns out the bride had been having an affair with the best man, and the groom had found out and hired a private investigator to photograph them at it. He'd printed the pictures and put them in the envelopes. Of course, chaos ensued. The groom dropped Mick and bailed immediately. The bride's mother threw red wine all over her dress and kept screaming that she was a whore, along with an awful lot of things alluding to the fact that she'd never find another good rich man again. The groom's 2 brothers beat up the best man pretty badly. There was a lot of screaming and glass throwing. The bride was crying uncontrollably, and everyone left as it was so awkward. We just hid in our little side room until everyone had gone, and then emerged, slightly shell-shocked, to inspect the pictures. There could be no doubt as to what was happening in them. The groom emailed us a few days later and apologized to us as he realized we'd got stuck. He explained that he'd only found out a fortnight before the wedding, and having paid for everything with little chance of refunds, he just decided to go ahead with it and out her so that she couldn't twist the story to her family after the fact. How he made it through the entire wedding I will never know, but it certainly made for an interesting day at work. I was a groomsman in a wedding 2 years ago. The bride and groom had been together for right around 4 years. They decided to write their own vows. The groom went through his. They were sweet as hell. He is a really great dude. The wife decided that during the vows is the appropriate time to let him and everyone else know that he would soon be a father. Everyone was crying, hugging. It was a pretty cool moment, especially being from the Midwest/Bible Belt, where that kind of thing normally gets frowned upon. Everything was going great up until a point in the reception where the bride was talking to a friend of hers, telling her how excited she was to be having a girl. Somehow, no one caught this except the groom, who got up, threw his drink at the wall and shattered it, called his new wife a stupid slut, and told her she was a cheating whore, and stormed out. The bride started crying and swore she never cheated on him and couldn't believe he was ruining their special day. the other groomsmen, and I ran outside to see what was up with him, and then it hit all of us at the same time. She was 16 weeks pregnant, and he had only been home from Afghanistan for 8 weeks. She didn't think that anyone would catch that, and was somehow going to try and convince her husband they were having the baby early. I have not heard much from him or her since the wedding, but it was heavily rumored that the pregnancy was a result of a one-night stand with one of my buddy's cousins. Will probably get buried as I'm a little late to the party, but oh well. This is a good excuse to tell one of my favorite stories. About 2 years ago I attended a wedding in Nice, France. It was my older cousin getting married to his girlfriend. She, the fiancée, was French and so is my cousin's dad. However, my auntie is from Scotland. So my cousin, James, the groom, is half French, half Scottish. Anyway, an argument ensued before the wedding as my family wanted the wedding to be in Scotland and my cousin's dad and future wife wanted it to be in France. They settled in France and to say the very least, my family were not happy. Me and my mum were happy for the excuse to go to France, but my extended family were fuming. They just could not get over it. Anyway, we got to France 2 days before the wedding. On the day we went to a beautiful converted barn in Nice and waited as the barn filled up with family and friends. My extended family weren't there, and my cousin's dad was fuming that they'd refused to come due to it not being in Scotland. My cousin stood nervously awaiting his future wife. She came out and all went smoothly. They began the cows, and when it came the time to object, almost in impeccable timing, the door to the barn burst open and in came 15 to 20 of my extended family, dressed in kilts and 3 of them brandishing bagpipes. They stormed down the aisle playing the bagpipes badly and singing the Scottish anthem and football chants. Everyone in the barn turned horrified to see them storming around and singing. The bride laughed hysterically, but my cousin didn't look happy. Then, my great uncle took to the stage and said, "Are we James?" I was going to ask help we behind, but we decided it best to join the festivities. Congratulations from us all. The Scottish lot are in tune, and we're here for the free bar and some frog's legs eye. People erupted with laughter and even the French side of my family had a giggle. The wedding continued as normal and the beautiful elegant reception was overrun with kilt wearing clowns singing and dancing at every opportunity. It was a grand night and one I'll never forget. 2 disasters. My Jewish friend married a Gentile woman. His immediate family was secular and didn't object, but his grandmother started bawling loudly at the start of the wedding ceremony, yelling in Yiddish for somebody to stop them, and making a huge scene. When the family tried to remove her, she said some other stuff in Yiddish as well, but nobody was willing to translate whatever it was for us non-speakers. My nephew, who'd had a severe head injury and wasn't quite right, got engaged to a very combative woman nobody liked. Try though they did. It began at the rehearsal dinner. The father of the bride, she being the youngest of his 8 daughters, unsteadily walked to my nephew's dad and stated, "Tell your son he's making a big mistake. She's the worst of the lot." The wedding itself actually went okay, but as the couple walked out of the church and went to get into the limo, my nephew decided to invite the best man and his date to ride with them. The bride wasn't having this and loudly declared so. Turned into a huge fight in the limo. Driver had to stop and drag my nephew out and put him in a separate car. Against all odds, the reception went off without bloodshed, but proceedings didn't end well. They went to an island honeymoon resort, and after 2 days, the owner kicked them out because of their unceasing, screaming fights. The end took several more years. One night, my phone rang after midnight. It was my nephew calling from a phone booth. He tells me, rather calmly, that she's trying to kill him. At that moment, there was a huge crashing noise. She had run the car into the phone booth. Fortunately, there were steel and concrete posts protecting the booth from just such a situation and he escaped relatively unscathed. She was too obese to pursue him any distance on foot. The divorce took 2 more years. When I was around 14 over 15, I attended my stepdad's auntie's wedding. She was probably in her late 50s at the time, and so was her fiancé. They had been childhood sweethearts but eventually separated, met new partners, married and had their own families. Fast forward 30 years or so, and they met again online and both decided to leave their families to rekindle the old flame. Immediately decided to get married. So anyway, the lady conducting the ceremony in a hotel gets to the part about speak now etc when the groom's ex-wife comes running in from behind us screaming, "You lying bitch, you stole my husband, I'll fucking kill you." She runs towards them both, tries to pick up a chair and throw it, but two of my uncles decided to rugby tackle her to the floor before she could let go. Turns out she had sold the story to a kind of lifestyle magazine we have in the UK called Take a Break, and there was a photographer waiting outside to get some pics. Needless to say, it was the best wedding ceremony I've ever attended. I'm a priest. Here's a mildly interesting tidbit about this. In a church context, this question is a holdover from the days when the civil authorities had little to do with weddings, and it was simply administered solely by the church. Therefore, it was the church's responsibility to ensure that nothing was amiss, most notably issues of adultery or of consanguinity being too closely related by blood. Now that couples must receive their marriage license from the state before being married in the church, this question is essentially moot as the state has already determined that barring some sort of identity theft, there are no impediments to their being married. We still ask, because there may be reasons, such as adultery, that require investigation. If someone does object during a church service, it is protocol to take them and the couple into the vestry and determine what the source of the objection is. If it was a joke, they are a jerk for interrupting, and we carry on. If it is real, like a groomsman sleeping with the bride the night before her wedding, then stuff hits the fan. Thank you so much for watching the entire video. I would be so grateful if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel. New videos every day.